In this example, we're going to talk about a consumption function. Now, consumption in one particular theory of economics talks about what's called marginal propensity to consume, which we abbreviate as MPC. Well, what is MPC? It means that every time we get some sort of increase in disposable income, what is our propensity to have a personal expenditure? And what we do for an economy is we try to assess that as an aggregate value, which means that we're looking at the entire nation's propensity to consume rather than as an individual. So this is actually sort of an aggregate overall measure of an economy, marginal propensity to consume. And the way it works is this. We say if X is a nation's disposable income, Y is the nation's personal consumption expenditures, that is how much they spent. So how much we've made divided by how much we've consumed. And actually what we're looking at is the change in how much we might have made, how much we might have spent on personal consumption. That's things where we don't save, essentially, divided by the change in disposable income. That is, if somebody gets an increase in pay, we try to count that in the aggregate and look overall what is the average increase in pay for people's personal consumptions here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to calculate and interpret the marginal propensity to consume given this information in the table, and then determine the equation defining a linear consumption equation. That's this one. This is our linear marginal propensity to consume equation, because it'll always come out as a line. So how will this work? Well, here's the table right here. We're saying that, okay, in some sort of aggregate, maybe we're talking about 44 billion or 44 million, we don't know. If the nation's personal consumption expenditures are 44, let's go with million, right? 44 billion. The personal disposable income, the aggregate disposable income, is maybe something like 50 billion. On the other hand, if that personal income increases to 80, then we have a personal consumption expenditures of 68 billion, let's say. Okay, so let's calculate that MPC. MPC is going to be equal to our change in Y's. So our change in the Y values divided by our change in X. Change in Y means taking Y2 minus Y1. Change in X means taking X2 minus X1. And we just subtract the values. So we're going to calculate it right here. 68 minus 44 in the numerator of this fraction for slope, and it's 80 minus 50 in the denominator. Well, working this out, we get 24 divided by 80 minus 50 is 30. A fraction here can reduce to 4/5, or if you carry out the division, we could call that 0.8. So how should we interpret that? What that means is that, all right, every time we have a change in income of $5, our marginal propensity to consume is $4. Or put another way, every $1 we go up, we're going to spend 80 cents more in personal expenditures. That's our marginal propensity to consume according to this function. All right. So maybe we can come up with a linear equation based on this. Again, we're going to go through our point-slope formula. In this case, the way it's going to look is y minus y1 would equal our marginal propensity to consume, MPC, taking the place of slope, times x minus x1. So let's make some replacements right here. Y minus y1. Well, on our first point, y1 is 44. Our marginal propensity to consume, I'm going to give the decimal form right here, 0.8. X minus x1 we said was 50. All right, well, working out some numbers, y minus 44 is going to equal to 0.8 times x, and we distribute that 0.8 to both terms in the parentheses, so that is 40. 0.8 times 50 is 40. To get y by itself, we add $44 and $44 right here. And so y is equal to 0.8x plus 4. How would we interpret this equation? Well, essentially, using our marginal propensity to consume, which is 0.8x, we're saying, essentially, that if we have no increase in pay, at the very basic level, we might spend $4 over and above what we would do. Really, we don't go with that number because we're in certain constraints in here, so we really don't consider what happens at x equals 0. X is always positive. But we know what happens with this marginal propensity to consume according to the theory, and so that's what we wanted, and we're done.